So Brandon, I wanted to show you how you can collect data off of one small form and then use the data that you've collected off that form to populate, for instance, your vendor list. So here's what I've done. I've created a very simple vendor, add a vendor form. So I've got one question, you're just putting the name. You could have addresses and everything else, but I'm just collecting a list of the names of your vendors. And it collects it over here in this spreadsheet. So real simple, made a form, I'm collecting the data. And then over here on your purchase order form, I'm going to run something called formRanger. It's another add-on. formRanger is going to let me, it's going to ask me if I want to populate. I don't want to populate the ordered by. You could, but there's only 3 of you, not much reason to do that. Your vendor list may change though. So my vendor list, I want to populate it from a values list. It says, well, which sheet do you want to grab it from? Well, here's my add vendors response sheet, okay? And then I said, well, what data? Well, it's on my form response data sheet, and I want to collect the name. So now this is the list it's going to populate. Your PO is going to be populated from this vendor list. And if you add more vendors, that would change it, the list. So give this values list a name. We're going to call it vendors, okay? And save and populate the question. So what's going to happen is your question's now going to go away from what it had been, and it's just got those 4 different vendors there. Unfortunately, you did have, and then on form submit, we're going to redo it and also have it go on every hour. The reason to do that is that I want this to repopulate in case I start filling out vendors. So you'll notice right now on my form, right now this is being built by a list that I've already created. I don't know if I can add an other here. No, it won't. It won't let me. It won't let me do that. Yeah, maybe it does. We'll see what happens when I go that. That is being populated. I have that other list there. So right now on the vendors list, there's just these 4. You had some other vendors there, and I don't remember what they were because I've just kind of erased them. But when I take a look here, these are the 4 that are there. So formRanger's done. That's what I needed to do to set that up. And if I go to view the actual form, I see my 4 vendors. Okay. So I'm going to, let's see, I'm going to go back here. I'm going to put that away for a moment. Okay. And then I'm going to come back to my vendors list, add a vendor. And here, I got my add a vendors list. So I'm going to add another vendor. And again, boy, I don't know what the name was, but let's say Countertops International. I don't know what the name of your vendors are. Something, you know. And again, I want to spell this right. So, and I'm going to submit that. So now I have another on my add vendors list. I'm going to have another vendor added to the list. So then when I come back to the purchase order, I'm going to have it refresh now. I think I'm going to have to. This is set up to submit. So if let's say I'll just do this. I'm going to go ahead and submit one of these orders, and I don't have. So Brandon, job number 3434, and West Coast Laminating, submit. Okay. Now on form submit, that should have repopulated the list from over here. So let's see. I'm going to give it a second, but let's see what happens when I do that. And I go to next, and there you see Countertops International. And that's because it's reading it from this list here. So what I'm thinking you would do is you would add this add vendor form on a website so that if you're filling out a PO and you don't have a vendor in there, the only drawback to this is I think this purchase order form, it repopulated that, but it only repopulated it after after I had made the list. You know, that's making me, let me check something here. You know, this is interesting. So I do have the other here. So I'm wondering if I can't populate the lists from the same spreadsheet you're in. So once you start building, that would be interesting. Anyway, formRanger is going to solve some problems for us in that regard.